Hi, I'm Oz, the Great and Powerful, artist formerly known as Rob Powers.
Hello, and I am Belle-Lyssa Crawford, mental fitness and resiliency coach.
Yes, you may have seen us before in some previous videos. We did a couple when I was in Wilmington when we went to the party and we went to karaoke a couple times and got to be friends and got to meet each other. It was an amazing experience to get to know you, I think. So yeah, and we wanted to talk about some healing and some journeys that we both have gone through, and we were just talking about my process of going through a near death experience. Melissa had asked me about that, and that happened during the COVID virus. I was at a point in my life where I was very depressed and I had felt defeated. I had been fired from a job that I had worked at for 7 years that was based in Texas and had really given it my all. And it was a very personal job to me because it was the head of development of a software, a 3D animation software that I had used my whole career and that I loved so much. And I thought the software was dying and it was my chance to save it. And I think I did a good job with that because it's still around. And it would have been dead if it wasn't for those efforts, I think. And I greatly improved the software, I think. But it was a traumatic process to be fired by the company when I married my husband.
Mm.
And also my family, half, not all of my family, because my mother never participated in this, but my father and my two sisters, quote unquote, disowned me at that same time. And then I had a dog that I loved desperately named Elphaba, Dorothy Gale Defying Gravity. She was a Cairn Terrier, and she passed at 16 years old in the same week. So all three of those things happened in one week, and I collapsed. And I thought before that I was depressed for maybe 8 months, after the job or whatever. My husband said, no, you were in bed and you didn't leave the house pretty much for 3 years. So 3 years of laying in bed and essentially saying, like a parrot, the same thing. Why did they throw me away? Why did I get fired when I was so good? At the job, I had just been recognized at the Christmas, pre-Christmas party, and they stood me up and said, this is a perfect employee that, while the rest of the company was losing money, his division was making money, and all this kind of recognition had come to me. And then when I married my husband, it was everything changed so rapidly, and it just caught me off guard, and I was targeted. And um, there were some very homophobic things said to me, and some texts sent to me, and I was so devastated by all of that um, at one time that I didn't even take legal action. I didn't do anything because people have to understand when you are a victim of harassment or some emotional distress, like a family throwing you out or something, you are not often capable of taking legal action. You're just not capable. So all of the people that were complaining or criticizing the Me Too people that were coming forward, it was really not something you should be doing because people oftentimes are not capable of defending themselves when they're so emotionally broken or hurt. And that process made my immune system so vulnerable um, that I got COVID very bad, and I was in the hospital for just over a month, and I was unconscious for 2 weeks. And it was I look back at it, and it's like you wouldn't choose that horrible situation, but it was a miraculous transformation for me because I came out the other side a totally different person. And you look at me now, I'm a little bit rock and roll, baby, and I'm a little bit country, whatever I am. I'm a roller skating punk rocker, rock star. But
You're
before,
unapologetically you.
I was very corporate before, though. I had a total different persona, and it wasn't one that I thought about. It was one that I put on to please everyone else and to make myself fit into whatever else people thought that someone of my stature working as a president of a company or in visual effects working in Hollywood should look like. Because believe it or not, at the time, and I'm not sure, it may have changed some, but the visual effects and animation industry was very, very, very patriarchal. Very few women involved in it, and definitely not any very obviously out, LGBT people. Um, so, I never was in the closet, so to say, with other people. I think everyone knew where I stood with that, but I was very visually mundane, in my opinion. I looked like I was channeling Steve Jobs or something like that. But inside of me, I've always been a creative individual. And I think I channeled it into the work and I was very successful at the work, but I still felt like I was minimizing and reducing myself in some way for other people so that they didn't feel uncomfortable. Now, this version really doesn't care what anyone at all thinks about me, except for when I look in the mirror, what I see and what makes me happy. And I like to say that I was, I came from a family where my mother was oftentimes reduced by my father, um, verbally, and um, there were some physical things too, but that wasn't really the main issue. Um, but he would just talk to her, say, "You're so stupid. You're so stupid," to my mother, and he would look at me and go, "You're just like your mother." And then I would look over as a little kid, probably 8 or 9 years old or 10, and I grew up in a roller rink at that time, and so I would look over at the TV in the office, and it was MTV was on constantly because that's what I love. And I would see Boy George or Cyndi Lauper or David Bowie, and I would think, if I was a rock star right now, I would kick his ass. And he wouldn't talk to my mother that way. He would talk to me that way. And I felt like I would be powerful. So how I feel like I mean, first to just leave my house after I got better, I felt like I was becoming a rock star every day so that I could leave my house and that I would not someone who would be bullied. I was not someone who would be pushed down. That's where it started. And it started with, a mohawk was the first step. And then I started doing my clothes because I made jackets like this when I was in high school. I painted jackets and
I
I wore
love
these.
them.
So I'm kind of back to my high school, you know, 80s persona a little bit. I didn't do the makeup in high school and I didn't have a mohawk and I didn't wear, makeup or anything, but I had the cool clothes on. And and so I just started feeling so authentically myself, like I was going back in time to my energy of myself before I had been damaged. And then it became something where um, I felt like I was becoming the man that the little boy wanted to be when he watched the TV and saw the rock stars. And so I felt the power of the little boy being happy with me. And so it was almost like a time travel event, in some sort of metaphor. It wasn't really time travel, but it was energetically going back and connecting with myself as a child before this happened and getting strength from my core being of who I was, my core creativity, and then letting that be who I am. And it's been amazing. I mean, actually, because visually, when you are something that is, I obviously like a lot of bright colors and different things, and when you walk in a crowd, you can actually see the creative people that are people that I would want to talk to and be friends with come up and push people out of the way to come to me. And the ones who are closed minded get freaked out and walk away and like glare or whatever, and sometimes make comments. And I've posted those things live on Instagram several times, not every time, but I am so happy about the people who I connect with almost on a daily basis now. I mean, literally, when I go out into the world, I have choices. And now, as I've gotten better about dealing with the way people react to me, because I'm not changing this person that I am happy with, I'm so grateful that I pull those creative people towards me and I get to meet them like I did with Belle-Lyssa and like I have done. Yesterday there was a lady in Lake Arrowhead that works down there that's wonderful, that invited me to go to her um, art studio and be a artist in residence kind of thing. All these kind of great creative conversations that would have never happened when I was dulling myself down to be what I thought other people wanted me to be. And it's just been a wonderful journey. I mean, it's like I wouldn't have chosen all that trauma, but now that it's happened, I'm so much more happy with myself, so much better of a person, so much more empathetic with other people, and I'm a better singer. I'm a better painter. My husband has even recognized. He's like, you could draw before, baby, but now you can draw and paint like crazy. And it's like, I see it. I'm like, yes. Like, how am I even doing these paintings every day and doing this stuff that I'm doing? Because it just comes so, it opened up something in my connection to the energetic creativity that is all around us. And I've also always been a little bit clairvoyant in my life, but it just, the experience in the hospital of near dying opened that up so much that I have to be very on guard about it now because when I walk in Lake Arrowhead up here with the great redwood trees and everything around me, I actually cry because I feel the trees. Like I never felt that much of a magnitude of life energy when I walk through and I touch the trees and I say thank you for making oxygen for me. And they reply back energetically to me, thank you for recognizing us. No one has ever seen me before. Like no one has said that to me and appreciated what we do. Thank you. And I just get like a surge when I touch them. It just ripples all through my body, down my arm, and just it's overwhelming of this love, of this vibration of life. And it's just it's un like I don't even know how to explain it really, because it's just like you have to experience it. It's so cool. But that's a little bit of some of the process I've gone through. But I don't want to, go on and on without you having input or questions or whatever.
Uh,
Oh, I can't
so
hear you now. Oh, yeah. Okay, there you go. Yeah.
there's so many things that I want to acknowledge. And the first thing I want to acknowledge is thank you for being able to be you, because everything that you're talking about is coming back to who you were always meant to be.
Mhm.
And just before we started recording, you talked about how you had to, that Rob Powers had to die in order for Oz, the great and powerful, to be born. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I feel my name growing up was always Robbie Powers, and everyone I went to school with knew me as Robbie Powers. I was the son of the kids who own people that own the roller skating rink, Skate Around USA in Weaverville, North Carolina. And I've had a lot of people from that time reach out to me this month, actually. So I started posting on Facebook, and a lot of people have reconnected. And they said that at the time when I was younger, they always knew. Everybody's response has been they always knew that I was LGBT, community person or whatever. But and I really don't like labels, honestly. I think labels are they're necessary because we're going through a time period where people's impressions and reactions and feelings about certain groups of people are changing, hopefully, and they need to label things so they can frame that with their brain. But the truth is, I'm just me. I'm just Oz. I'm Oz. And none of the details and specific labels that you would want to apply to me matter. Because as soon as you apply a label to me, I'm probably going to surprise you and not be exactly what you would put someone in that label, to do, because I don't believe in building cages for ourselves. I just don't believe in that and living that way. And I don't see other people as a label. I see you as Belle-Lyssa, and I don't feel the need to have to understand all the details and all the labels that people want to apply to Belle-Lyssa to be and to love you and to be appreciative of having you in my life and want you to be the best version of you and encourage you to do that and do that with you and help you make other people do that as much as we can. So that version, Robbie Powers, I feel, was a version of me that I love, and it was, kind of gave birth to me. But it was, and my mother loves that version, and she named that version, and I was, I posted some pictures of me on the roller skates at that age and different things, and the superhero picture of me with the. I got to show you this one because I just put this one on my screensaver on my phone. That was him.
Oh, I
That was
love it.
that was
I
Robbie
love
Powers.
it.
That was Robbie Powers. And in my mind, baby, I was channeling Wonder Woman. Linda Carter's Wonder Woman. That specific one. My
She's
mother,
one of my heroes. So.
my dear mother made that costume for me, sewed it with her own fingers, and supported me all the time with my creativity and took me to, art class every day. And, when I was very young, she just invested in me. She invested in me. She took me to the library, taught me how to read, where I read the first thing I remember reading was the whole series of the Wizard of Oz books, like beginning to end, every single one of them. And they're fascinating stories. It had such an impact. But that version of me that was in the hospital, I felt was one that was concerned about what other people thought, was damaged so bad by my father and my sisters, who I love. Um, and I say love, not loved, but love, still so much that I couldn't let go of them. And I couldn't understand why they would throw me away that way and why they would quote unquote disown me. And it was a person who was floored by a company, turning on me essentially and making me into a villain and accusing me of things that weren't true. And basically trying to push me out because they did not like the fact that I was LGBT, that I was married to someone who loves me and has saved my life more than once, um, and who we have such potential together and such happiness, and there's such a connection there. I just don't understand why that is such a problem for people. I still don't understand why people get freaked out by other people finding someone that they love and connecting with that person. So when I say that Robbie Powers died, and I have this I don't really even like to be called Rob, even though I created a career. I created a kind of a persona in Hollywood where people know me as Rob Powers because of the things I've done. I keep that name like Tina Turner did, sort of, because I built that name. But I don't want to be called that on a daily basis because I do feel like I am Oz the Great and Powerful. My energy has shifted, and I got the Oz name through a rabbi friend that said, when I was going through the process of studying Reform Judaism and Kabbalah and all of the stuff that I started in the hospital, actually, when I was getting better, chose that name for me and said that this is what I think represents you. And the name was Ozias. And I was like, huh, that sounds interesting. What is that? And they said the name means salvation. And I said, I love that. And they said, and the short name version of it, Oz, means bold and courageous. And then as soon as I heard Oz, I said, I love that because, I mean, my dear friend Tracy that I went to first grade with, and I'm still friends with in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, knows that we had such a connection through the Wizard of Oz. She was like Dorothy, and I was like every other character. we toured, we toured all the third grade with puppet shows and plays, and we've known each other since first grade, and we were just so close, and we still are. And the Wizard of Oz has always been a special thing between us. She looks like Linda Carter. She still does today. She's like amazing, beautiful individual, um, with a very, very adorable, sweet daughter. And the name resonated with me and just became like a thing that I felt like for once in my life, the first time, because I was born a junior. I was born my name was my father's name, basically. And I always felt like I was in the shadow of this person who really resented me and didn't want to be around me even. And for the first time I felt like I was standing on the earth as my own self. Like I was called what I am, and it was from me. And I felt that was so powerful to have that. And plus all the fun social media things I can do with it, like, iconic Oz, and I'm doing all the Wizard of Oz kind of things. And there's just a lot of creative things you can do with that. And it just felt so much more comfortable for me. And I don't know, it wasn't something that was like forethought. It was like other people came and contributed, and then I contributed to it, and it became a thing that moved me away from that persona. But I have to say, I left the hospital after that month as a different person. I wasn't able to let go of the pain of particularly my dad and my sisters disowning me. The company I had already just been, I mean, I didn't want to think about it or talk about it. It was so painful what happened at the company. And being ridiculed in meetings by staff, and staff being told things about me that weren't true so the boss in charge could turn them against me, and all just really bad stuff. Um, full on harassment, and your career is something that's very important to most people, and they define themselves by a lot of LGBT people. That's the main thing they define themselves with, is their career, because they have to, that's what they have. And when that was attacked after I had worked so hard my whole life to build that was a really hard thing for me to process, and for me to be okay with, for me to be healthy with, and for me to know how to handle it. I mean, I had such a big lawsuit opportunity and I didn't even think of going there because I couldn't literally get out of bed. I literally couldn't even have a conversation with someone without bursting into tears. And it's a miracle that my husband stayed with me at the time, because it was like I was so dysfunctional and not even like a living human being. I was just so broken. And when I left the hospital, I wasn't that person. I knew exactly through energetic conversations, or whatever you want to call it. It wasn't like the voice of God said, hello, you know, but it was this, I just knew intuitively what to do. I got up and called my dad and my sisters and said, you know, God wants us to be connected and wants us to love each other, and I'm showing up for that. And now the ball is in your court. And when I called each of them and said essentially that, and I hung the phone up, I didn't even think about it again. And prior to that, prior to going to the hospital, it was a thing I thought about every day and cried for 3 years, supposedly. That's what my husband says. But I haven't really, since that time, it kind of like I took the burden off of me and kind of gave it back to them to carry. I carried it too long and I just couldn't do that. And it just changed. I felt light. I felt light. There was an angry period with attackers that would come at me and talk about me physically that I think was tied to the anger of my father. And that lasted for a period of about 8 months. And mostly when I was on roller skates, dressed like this, maybe more elaborate makeup. I don't know if you can see my makeup now, but I have like a gold thing and then whatever. It's kind of bright in here. I hope it's not. Let's hold that up. Maybe you can see it better. Can you see my makeup? Yeah.
I do. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
You can
Yeah.
see
So
it.
I had, whatever, every day my makeup changes depending on how I feel at the moment. And I would be on roller skates like that with my spikes and everything. And I'm about 7 feet tall on roller skates. And I would still, believe it or not, because my energy was angry, I was attracting the law of attraction. I attracted people that wanted to engage with fighting or calling me names, the F name, and whatever, attacking me for something. And so I engaged with those people for about 8 months, and I was very ferocious with them. Said things that I don't want to repeat here because I basically scared the hell out of them, and they didn't know what they were. They didn't know the fury that was coming from a 50-year-old at that time that was bottled up for all those years, and I was really angry at my father, and so they were just helping me release my anger that I had for my father. And every time it happened, I was picking that little boy up a little boy, until I didn't need to do it anymore. And then my dear, I call her my sister, my older sister, Bev Sue. She's actually my first cousin, and I think she wouldn't mind if I told a little bit about her because she's kind of an inspiration to me. Is that okay to mention a little bit about Bev Sue here, Belle-Lyssa?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so Bev Sue is my first cousin, and I never knew her growing up. And so before I went to USC Film School when I was, you know, um, in my early, 20 or something like that, I went to my grandmother's birthday party. It was like her 96th birthday party or 95th or something like that. And they invited like several hundred people that were the family to this party, her birthday party. And I was there with all these people, and some of them I knew mostly, and but then I saw Bev Sue and I didn't recognize her. I said, "Who are you?" I said, "I'm your cousin Bev Sue, and I know who you are." And I said, "Well, I don't remember you at all." She goes, "Well, I remember you." And I said, "Well, how come I don't know who you are?" She said, "Because I was banished from the family." And I said, "Why were you banished from the family?" And she told me it was because she had basically dated someone in high school of another race in the South, and she was banished back to her mother who lived in Seattle and treated very badly. And I never knew her. And so since that time, um, I moved to Los Angeles and she moved down from Seattle at that time with a job that she had. And we became very close friends and have been friends ever since. And her daughter was going to Pepperdine University and graduated now and is now a member of our family. She's like a sister as well. And her little daughter, Miss Jackson, is our niece. And but Bev Sue as you've talked to Bev Sue, she's a master of energy study, and she's done that her whole life, and the Paralando processes and all the things she knows about energy healing. And she's really helped me so much. And she came to me during this period because she knew me for years before, like as the corporate me, as the Rob Powers of Hollywood me, as the very, buttoned up. And, she knew me and we did all the holidays together. And so she had known me at this point as an adult for my whole, since 20s on to, I guess, for 30 years. So she saw this change and she saw this anger. And she said, I've noticed how almost on a daily basis, it got to one point, Melissa, it was on a daily basis. I was getting attacked by people on the street because I was pulling that towards me. And I didn't understand the dynamics of what I was doing. And the only thing I had been taught was from my father, like, if you're going to bust my teeth out, I'm going to bust them out bigger, fight. And so that was the only tool I had, was I was going to scare the hell out of them. And so she came to me and she said, there's another way that you can handle this. And I said, well, what do you mean? She goes, well, I don't have to have conflicts like that with people ever, because my energy pushes them away from me. Like, I don't attract that. And I said, I don't understand what you mean by that. I'm the victim here. I'm just skating and enjoying myself. And all of a sudden they come and do that to me. She goes, no, that's not what's happening. She said, you're actually radiating anger with your hurt from your father. And you don't even know that your vibration is attracting them like blood in the water, like a shark coming to blood. There's a different way. And I said, well, what is it? And she goes, well, I'm going to teach you one tool. She taught me the mirror ball technique. And the mirror ball technique changed my life, because um, it was a profound way to manage how you receive energy and how you give energy back, and choose how you, a energy receptor, which is what we are at our basic level, receive that energy and what you do with that energy, how it changes your trajectory or not. And so I didn't understand at the time fully what she was talking about, but she articulated a mental exercise to help me energetically do what she was trying to get me to do. So the exercise was, if someone is coming towards you, and since I got out of the hospital, I didn't have to see those people anymore. I could feel them. I could feel them to my right or to my left or in a car. I didn't have to even look at them. I could just feel the negativity. So she said, when you feel that, if you see them, you can visualize them how you visualize them when you paint your watercolor trauma paintings, which is another aspect of my healing, as I do watercolor therapy. And you can bounce that image back to them and not receive it. And I did it for the first time. I was roller skating. I recorded this. I should probably post that video in conjunction with this video and show, because I was crying. Like, it happened to me. And I basically energetically made a person who was coming at me, and I could feel they were going to attack me. I made them turn and walk the other way. And they just walked away. And I was in tears, because they lifted me up instead of reducing. Because what I added to her mix was, I'm a singer, a musical. So I added song to it. When they started coming to me, I said, I don't receive your trauma, the trauma that you probably got from your daddy or your mama or both. I bounce it back to you with a mirror ball, baby. I don't receive your trauma, like that. And I laughed, because it was like a ridiculous thing. I'm singing this ridiculous song. And the person who was coming to reduce me and attack me actually created joy in my life, made me laugh and lifted me up higher than I was before they came. And those people who were trying to engage with trauma hate that. They don't want to be a part of that. They don't want your joy to be lifted up. They move away from you quickly. And I've had since I've become more in tune with what I'm doing and receiving, I've had very, very amazing experiences with that. Like, me and my husband were in a restaurant, and I was getting ready to go to temple. Somebody came in off the street and was jibber jabbering about me and saying all this, I could tell it was going to be a conflict. They were talking about my physical appearance, and they were making comments with the slurs, about gay people. And I looked at my husband and I said, watch this. And I did the thing with the mirror ball. And I sang it to myself. I don't receive your trauma, all the stuff that I do. And I started smiling, and the person literally got up and walked out of the restaurant. It's happened more than once. It's so interesting, because your energy, it sounds crazy. I know it sounds like this voodoo thing,
Not
but
to me.
it's true. Like, the energy that you give and you receive controls so much in your life.
Right.
If you can become aware of how much energetic trauma you receive throughout the day from even billboards or TV shows or people who don't even mean to give it to you, because they're just passing on the trauma that they received or the judgment they received from their teachers or whatever, and they're not even trying to be mean to you. They may say something in a way that is very insulting, but they did not intend it that way. And you have to be aware of all these sources of trauma, and you become aware of it. You become a master of deflecting. And it's just, it really changes a lot, because you can stay on your joy train your whole day and not be derailed by a whole conflict, where I would get in a conflict with somebody. What are you talking about? You blah, 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 blah. And then that would lower my resonation, my vibration to their level. And then it takes you a while to get back from that. It's like a huge impact to what I call your joy train. It gets derailed, and you got to get the cars back on the track, and you got to grease the wheel, and you got to all the stuff you got to do to get moving again when you allow that energy to derail you.
Mhm.
And I just don't do that now. Um, even when I've had confrontations with people that come up and say things to me, I try to do it from a point of education for them and make them have empathy with how other people feel. Because I think either they're kids that aren't aware of it yet, or they are, you know, I mean, I'm not perfect. I'm not, but, and I stream the stuff live. So sometimes I'm raw me, whatever the moment is. But I have seen in my confrontations, I've had a couple, I haven't had some in a long time, but maybe a couple months ago, when I got back from the trip to visit down in Wilmington, I had a couple here, and it could have been tied to that residual anger about my family from that. I could have been putting that energy out a little bit, or kind of thing. But I noticed how I handled them and how I talked to them was different. And it's a process that you get better and better as you're aware. And as you realize, consider the source, don't throw your pearls before swine and all that kind of stuff. Like, don't get rid of like, if you're on a journey to accomplish something during the day and you're trying to be positive and do a certain thing and you let other people come and derail you from that and you become all focused on them, that is really what they want. People who are doing some kind of attack on others want attention. They want someone to give them attention, to engage with them, to make them feel like they have a voice because they feel voiceless. They feel like that no one cares, or that they've been ostracized, or they're on the outside of the community or whatever. When you don't give focus to those things, but you stay on the focus of the positive, on complimenting people and giving as many hugs and as much happy comments and lifting people up that you feel need to be lifted up, and all that positivity, or painting, or doing some kind of creative endeavor, or helping someone heal like you're doing, Belle-Lyssa. All those things keep you at a higher resonance. And your vibration, when it's higher, is a different experience for you and for others than it is when you're defeated, or when you're allowed yourself to be pulled down into the lower resonance. And there's a whole other level of that, which Belle-Lyssa has taught me about courting, when you're in relationships that do that to you, and you think you're in love, but that could also be love that you thought you had a relationship with a parent, like my father. Like I was in some ways courted by his energy too, because that bully mentality of this person who really never liked me was always in my head. We talked about the Power of Now book that I always talk a lot about. Having those voices in your head that are complaining or telling you that you can't do something, or you look ridiculous, or you look like a clown, because all those negative perceptions of you is not my voice of describing me. It's my dad's voice.
Yeah.
And the future one of, no one's going to love me. He's right. I'll never be taken seriously, or I'll fail, or I'll be alone, or all these things that we struggle with. Those two entities, distracting us from being present in the moment when we have our biggest strength and our God power and our ruby slippers, if you will. That is really the trick to remain present. And you can do that through, if you can't do that by choice, you can do that by training yourself to pinch yourself and feel things. What are 5 things I smell? What are 5 things I hear right now? What are 5 things I see? So that you are present in this moment. You become unstoppable.
You do.
And people recognize that power. That
You
power
do.
is when artists, athletes, and singers, and painter, everybody doing something where they are fully immersed in that creativity, or in that communication, or in that love, and that endeavor, theater, live theater, they are fully present in the moment. And it is amazing. It's when humans reach their greatest potential. It's when you connect with that God energy. And so you want to stay there as much as possible, because you become this force of nature that other people go, wow, there's something very unique about that. And one more thing I'd like to say, it's an unexpected side effect of being authentically visually myself on the outside, is I have so many people who come up and talk to me and identify my freedom and tell me that verbalize that I am what they want to be in their own life. The way that I am is how they want to be, and they don't feel that they can because of their job or their family or whatever. And trust me, I felt like that person too. That is, and so that's why I'll say, to full circle this, that the rejection of being disowned, quote unquote, because we know that you can't disown what you never owned. You can't disown what, like, they never owned my spirit and owned me enough to disown me, but I felt rejected, like an orphan, basically. And there's freedom to that. The flip side of being rejected, most people don't think about, the positive side, is this freedom from those voices of what will my dad think, what will my sister say, or what would the job, this and that. I don't have that. This person of me now has no fear. I will get up on stage at the drop of a hat and perform. And I used to not be that way. People look at me now and go, oh, he was always, no, I wasn't. I had to drink alcohol to do karaoke. I had to get an alcohol drink to make myself calm down so I could get up and do karaoke, probably nervously, not very good. Now, none of that is there. I mean, it's a really liberating experience when you really authentically stop caring what other people think of you, and all you care about is how a good a person you are for you to be with others, and the love that you have, and you start recognizing those loving individuals in your life that were standing there right before you, and you're focusing on these people who hate you or didn't want you or didn't, and all your energy is going to these negative people instead of the friends and the puppy dog and the baby or the niece or the my cousin slash sister that I call them my upgrades, my energetic upgrades of family that are there with their arms open going, we love you, we love your new look, we love how you feel, and we love your creativity with your vest and your whatever you're doing, and we love that, and they're there with their arms to lift you up, and you're like turning your head to look at the people who don't really care. And so that was a big awakening for me, is to say, give the energy to the people who are there that you were closing your eyes to and not valuing. My husband, who stood by me through this whole process, because I am not the man he married. I mean, I could show you pictures, but let me show you. Well, maybe I shouldn't do that, but I was a totally different person. So to have someone who, will stand next to you during this transformation and go, I'm hanging on to this, I still love you, and I'm going to go wherever this goes, is a great gift. And I was so disrespectful to that, looking all my energy at the negativity of these people who were so busy, rejecting me, and all of this negative energy towards me to kind of say horrible things about me, and you know, and to keep me from seeing my other family members and stuff. It just, all of that focus on them was distraction from who I should have been focused on. And you've got to remember to pivot towards the love in your life, the people who are lifting you up and nurturing you and seeing you fully and loving you. Hell or high water.
Yeah.
Love you. I mean, and I'm so fortunate to have friends I've had since first grade, since fourth grade, not just one, but like multiple friends that I consider to be my chosen family, that are just come out of the woodwork, man. Like, they have just, I can't even express the amount of joy and love that I have for these people that were willing to stand by me. When I came home, when I was being screamed at by my father, they would come, they shut their business down. And I'm not going to say any names right now, but they know who I'm talking about. They shut their business down and came and stood next to me, drove me there, and held my hand when this was happening. And I've been friends with this individual I'm talking about since high school. Since before that, since fourth grade, but like really close in high school because we were in drama classes together. Can you imagine me in drama? That's a long shot, right?
Yeah. Thank you for sharing so much about what that meant to you and who you are now, and having the courage to share so that other people listening will see things in a different way. Because when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I want to go back to a couple things.
What you just said is so important. Perception. Your perception of what is happening to you is probably one of the, if not the most keys to the whole experience of life. Is you can perceive so many different versions of what's happening. And if you don't allow yourself to perceive it in the negative and gravitate towards that, it will fundamentally change your life. That was an important point you just made.
Absolutely. And I want to segue. It's a great segue into the next point. And also, I want to share my own connection to the Wizard of Oz and something that happened recently, because that movie, that's my movie too.
Yeah.
And I think I was 22 years old before, maybe 20, before I really understood what it was about. I loved it. I sang it. It was just my song. And I just watched it over and over and over and over again. It was because I didn't think I was smart enough. I didn't think I was beautiful enough. I didn't have the confidence. I lacked the courage. And then one day I realized I'm not that girl anymore. I'm a woman that has all of those things, and the great and powerful Oz is within me. And that's why I think the great and powerful Oz is within you. It's within everyone. And when you allow yourself to open yourself up to be who you are really meant to be, you can step out into the darkness. You can be born again. You can make choices that you wouldn't make had you been afraid to make, because you know you'll either be taught how to fly or find a safe place to land. Because you know you're going to meet the right people at the right time for the right reasons. And this will make me cry, and I'm very emotional because I just who I am. After we got off our call the other day, out of the blue, I got a message in Facebook from someone I didn't know, someone who I either sent a friend request to or she sent one to me. Didn't recognize the name. And she said, "Your name showed up in my journal from elementary school. You were in a recital singing the Wizard of Oz,
Wow.
Somewhere Over the Rainbow." It'll
Wow.
make me cry because both my parents have passed away. And, and I remember my parents were there, and I remember I had those red ruby slippers, and I remember that glitter got everywhere. I mean, it was glitter got everywhere, and I just, and it meant so much to me. What a powerful synchronicity. Out of the blue, she took a picture of her journal page and it was handwritten in there, Belle-Lyssa Crawford. I'm like, and that movie is so powerful because you really don't have to worry about meeting the right people. I hear, and I want to go back to when you change the way you look at things. The things you look at change. It's all about perception, right? It's all about how we see ourselves. And when you were talking about the anger, you were talking about being belittled and shamed and bullied. I don't like this word. However, I'm going to use it for the sake of, I think it's a good illustration. I think it's a good word to use to describe something that none of us want to be, a victim. And when we realize we are not a victim
Right.
of someone else's judgment,
That's
we
right.
are not a victim. We are not a victim of someone else's anger. We are not a victim of someone else's betrayal. We are not a victim. And you may have been. You may have been in an emotional state to not be able to call the powers that be out on what they did to you in the corporate world. But guess what? We're changing that, because somebody that's going to listen to this, and this is only one of many interviews, that somebody's going to listen to this and say, that's me. And I want to call them out on it. I want to do something about it.
Yeah.
And with that energy that you put out there and you embrace it with love, you give people the courage to know that when you make the decision, and it is a decision, it was a decision to do the mirror ball technique. It was a decision to step out on your own. It was a decision to send love to your family, even though,
It's a decision to live. To live.
right,
I was
to
faced.
live.
I could have died. I could have
Yeah,
died from that trauma, and I said, not going to happen. Not
right.
going to happen. But I have to
And you
tell
may
you,
have,
with feeling powerless, many times things that are done to you as a child or in front of you that you feel you have no power to stop, like the way my mother was being taught to me, or some of the things my father did to scare me into not being gay or whatever. I guess what he was trying to do, or to bully me into that. Um, when you're smaller stature as a child, physically, you can't defend yourself physically about something like that, and you have to carry that trauma because you have no tools. We don't give children tools in this country, in the world, probably, to deal with those kind of levels of trauma that come at them. And you do feel like you were a victim. You feel like you want to do something, but you physically and emotionally and energetically wise, can't. And that survival choice in the hospital was me saying, I am no longer that weak child. I am no longer powerless. And I channel and call forth all of my creativity and all of my power to create this new version of me, which will not allow myself or others around me to be treated that way, period. That's my healing, is to say, no,
Right.
no. And now I'm going to be everything that I'm supposed to be and help others to do that. That's my choice. I'm not going to shrivel up and die, fade away. Sorry. I'm not going to fade into invisibility. I'm not going to have no voice. I'm not going to be silent. I'm not going to disappear because I make you feel uncomfortable. I'm going to stand in the sunlight of the beautiful earth that we were given and all of my power that I was born with, my ruby slippers, period. Period. And I'm going to give ruby slippers to every person that I meet that will receive them. That's all I'm going to do.
And I think to add to that, to know that it's not negotiable. Who I am is not negotiable. If I'm too much for you, then I won't be too much for the right people.
That's right.
And I think so many times people are afraid that if somebody really truly knew who they really were inside, they wouldn't accept them. Well, who wants that person?
And that's my case is an example of that is true. Like my father and my sisters, for example. You know, I years of my life I lived, I can't tell anybody this horrible secret about me that I'm gay because I will be rejected and they will hate me. Well, guess what? It did happen. It did happen. But guess what? While I'm being authentic, that group of people was replaced with another group of people that is a chosen family that is so much more connected to me, that I have conversations with so much deeper and have so much richer, valuable relationships with that I couldn't even imagine with those other imposters, which were standing in as quote unquote family members, but never connecting and loving me on that level. It was always a what can I do for them or what could, there was never the real authentic love that I have from this new chosen family. It is all about the chosen family, unless you were born very lucky to a beautiful family that you already have that are those people. The rest of the people, my message is, baby, get moving. Find your chosen family because they are so much more of an upgrade and will make your life so much richer that you can't imagine when you're in your down, depressed stage of I'm going to lose these people who are energy vampires or who are reducing me every day or embarrassed by me or will not love me if I'm authentically who I am, who I was born to be, who I was created to be, in the image of God, not as a poor reflection or as a person, distracted by the devil or all these things that the traumagelicals throw. Because I grew up in the Southern Baptist, philosophy, and there was so much of this negativity and judgment coming at me all the time that was tied to an essential part of who I am that I knew to not be true. Because I was born with a connection to God and I never got rid of that. That was always in me. And I knew I was like the ruby slippers. I knew they were there. And I knew that they were talking about something that wasn't real to me. That wasn't the truth because I had that spark of the creative force of the universe inside of me. I already knew that. And so I didn't need an interpreter. Luckily, I don't know if everyone has that, but I had that. And I felt it my whole life. And I hope everyone has it, or hope that they don't suppress it or push it down because they're told to. They're told to disconnect from it. And in many ways, I think it's what animals have. Like our dog has this pure love. Like little Zebby. Zebby, come here. Come here, Zebby. I want to put you on camera. This is such an authentic, sweet relationship that I have with this loving animal. And I try to think of the purity of that, of never having learned. Zebby's never learned all these things that separate us from our authentic, young, beautiful energies. Our born legacy of love, basically. And that's why every time you come home, the dogs loves you no matter what. They're always there. They're your biggest champion. They're like a chosen family member. That's how Bev Sue is for me. Like she is like as loyal and as encouraging and as loving. Doesn't matter if I had a bad day or a good day, or if I was on stage in front of 1,000 people or I was by myself crying. in the closet. If I come to her, I get the same love coming at me and the appreciation for who I am and the encouragement to be the best that I can be from her, just like Zebby gives me every day. And I think that that is something we're born with. And many of us have to find our way back, the path of that. But we are born, absolutely born with it. And, I like to think of the existence on this plane as if we're all connected in this body of water. And for a moment, we come down a waterfall and our little drips of our lives separate from that body of water for a brief moment as the waterfall falls. That's our life. And then we land at the bottom and we come back together into this energy field that is so powerful. We're all connected. We feel like for a moment that we're separated, that there's something else, that this life energy that we call God, that created the universe, that's the greatest artist ever, is separate from who we are, but it's never true. We're always a part of that waterfall, that water body, that energy ocean, or whatever you want to call it. We are part of that. And once you realize and visualize that, you can see that you are so powerful, because everything that you appreciate in the world around you, and you see all this energy in other people and these characteristics that you think are strong or eloquent or talented or great singers or whatever, you are part of that. That same energy is in you. If you will change your perception, like Belle-Lyssa says, that can become a reality for your life.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of the thing that got me through, was really recognizing and retouching with my authentic self that I was as a kid before I was damaged.
Mm-hmm.
And having loving people, because when you don't, there was a time in my life when I was in a relationship for 7 years with someone, and I thought, this is the one. I'm in my 30s now, I'm approaching my 40s. I'm never going to find anybody to love me if this doesn't work out. And this person had me courted. And I was so depressed after I broke up with this person, and so desperate, that I felt just so reduced by it. It broke me emotionally. And you can't imagine in those dark moments when you think you're always going to be alone now for the rest of your life, you'll never find the right person. You can't imagine the rich life that you're going to be facing, who is going to come into your life in the future. You can't imagine it. You can't foresee for yourself things that are going to happen, the people you're going to work with. When you have an open, loving heart, the doors and windows and tunnels that will be open for you in the face of something closing. It's a brilliant experience that you have to allow it to happen through love and through healing and connection with love and accepting and forgiveness to other people. That is when these doors are just blown open, and you learn the skill of, if you don't connect with someone, you start feeling that energy of that negativity. Move on, baby, really fast.
Yeah.
There's a whole philosophy I have of that tied to sound waves. We've talked about it before. Maybe in our next podcast we can talk about that, because it's a foundational philosophy that occurred to me at USC Film School when I was in my sound class taught by Tomlinson Holman, who created the THX sound that comes up in front of movies. It's named after him, Tomlinson Holman. He was the best sound teacher anyone could ever have at USC Film School, and probably in the world. And his philosophy of sound connected with me about the energetic philosophy of vibration and rhythm, and our energy of our life, and of love, and of connection with other people. And I just connected these dots between that sound class and my life's philosophy, and it became this whole thing that has helped me so much. And I've told other people, and they've said it really helped them as well. So I'd love to discuss that in our next.
Absolutely. Sound is a really
longer than we probably could fit into this one, but the next one would be great.
Absolutely. Sound is a big thing for me too. And I wanna, if I could, mention that sometimes when people are playing small in their lives, that it's not that things aren't working out, it's that they're not playing big enough. They're not thinking big enough. If they're not feeling the elixir in their life, if they're not feeling full of passion and they're wondering, where is it? Where's the energy? Where's the life force? Where's my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing? It's because they're putting limiting beliefs on that. And I also want to go back to something you said about your dad and other people, the people in the world that reject labels. They reject certain people for whatever reason. They don't know any better. And maybe they never had the courage to feel that life force inside of them? I don't know. Not my place to judge. I do feel that when we reach a certain point in our lives and we realize this isn't working for me, something's off, I'm not in alignment, we can choose to take responsibility for what happened and say, I'm going to reparent myself. I'm going to learn how to rewire my brain. I call it learning how to rewire the hard drive of our mind, getting rid of the bugs in the software. And those bugs are the people that judge, the people that don't accept. And sometimes we accept that to be true. We don't know a difference. We don't know what unconditional love is. We don't know what it means to be a cheerleader. We don't know what it means to pick ourselves up on the floor no matter what happens, unconditionally, non-judgmentally, and to be able to completely embrace and accept someone. We don't know what that is yet. And I feel that it's our job as healers, I think we're both healers, to help people, because sometimes people don't realize the commercial that they're running in their mind, in their heads, is causing the damage. Sometimes the worst place you can be in your mind is in your mind.
Yeah.
And to be able to notice, what are you saying to yourself? And to know that that's not my voice. Somebody else said that.
Yeah.
I thought that was mine. No, that's not mine. That's Now, I don't want to put labels and say mother, father, sister, brother, aunt, uncle. We'll just say it's another voice.
Yeah.
And to be able to choose what we say to ourselves.
Choose how you see yourself.
Exactly.
Those are eyes of someone else as they saw you in a judgment state of
Right.
judgment. And many times I hear people talk about themselves and describe themselves, and I know that that's not what they think about themselves. I know that that was what someone else or some teacher or somebody in their life, a coach in sports or whatever it is, put onto them about limitations and judgment, because maybe who knows what they were going through, or who knows what
Right.
their health mental state was. But one important thing that I want to point out about mind is, this goes back again to The Power of Now, which is one of my foundational books that I really love and point people to. When I got to the part in that book where it said that your mind is not who you are, your personality is not who you are, because we define ourselves. I don't know anybody who doesn't think that their mind and their personality is who they are. We are so egotistically bound to this presentation of ourselves that we created over the years through, receiving something happening in response. And then over the years, you just build this thing that becomes your personality of who you are. But actually, you are higher and sit higher in existence in your body, in your energetic energy, than your mind and your personality do. Your mind and your personality are like your heart or your spleen or your, any part of your body you want to call it, or an organ, are there to help you survive, to be controlled by you and your body, to survive and have a wonderful day and experience, not to drive the car, not to control you. What's happening with most people is their mind is driving the car with all these voices of this stuff. You can't do that. Oh, who do you think you are? You're too high on the horse when you're talking about you're going to get an Academy Award for doing a documentary, or what? Why would you be able to do something like that? Who do you think you are? And all those voices, that is all fakakta, bullshit, which means in Yiddish, effed up. It's just not. It's not something that you should be concerned with. Those voices are something you should banish, to try to eliminate them, because the book says the Power of Now, the way that Eckhart talks about it, he says that many people are walking around as if when you see the homeless person on the street and they're jibber jabbering to themselves, most people say, oh, that person's crazy. Well, we're all in a state of mental illness, because we're all hearing those voices of jibber jabber in our head about worry about the future, or concern about what happened in the past, and what someone called us or labeled us or said we could or could not do, or how we looked physically, or anything about us, how we are, our sex, our gender, or whatever. And we carry that forward, and those voices are we're giving them license to run constantly in our head like a movie that never ends, and distract us from our moment in the sun, which is our present moment, which is the only reality that exists, is the present moment. Nothing in the past that ever happened is real now. It's over. It is nothing more but a figment of your imagination and those people who may have been there to participate. It doesn't exist. It's not real. It is change is the only standard that is in the universe. And this moment right now, this present moment is the only reality that we have. So when we are focused on the future, which 99.9% of the time never happens for people, when they worry about every possible negative outcome that could happen to them and it cripples them, none of that ever happens. 99.9% of the time, never happens. So you spend all this energy worrying about this stuff that will never, ever occur, and worrying about what happened in the past that's already happened is over. Doesn't exist unless you bring it forward and allow it to come forward, it doesn't exist. What exists is right now in this moment. And in this moment, you are the most powerful version of you if you choose to be. You can do anything that's possible. Because we are in construction in our minds and our energy with the creator to create the universe every second of the day. And how you show up for that, and how you give feedback, and how you offer your thoughts to help build that is the universe that you're going to build for yourself, period.
Absolutely beautiful. And I'm reminded of, very eloquently stated, I'm reminded of my mentor when I first started my coaching career, Bob Proctor, who one of his biggest successes was being part of the production of The Secret, the movie.
Oh, yes.
And he passed away a few years ago. And I remember him telling me that, reminding me that our subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what's real or imagined.
Right.
So why not imagine what I want to have happen, not what I don't? And that's what I teach everyone. And our subconscious mind is constantly recording everything. It doesn't ever stop. So getting people to pay attention, ticking the wheel
Yes.
of their mind,
right,
and saying, this is what I want to think about. The doubt, the fear, and the worry, they have no place here. And where do I want to put my energy?
Or in
into what I want?
In cases of people, sorry to interrupt, but the people who have addictions or some negative behavior, to be able to say to that mind, go sit in the corner and shut up.
Yeah,
sit
that's
down.
right.
We're not doing this today.
That's Fakata.
I'm in this vehicle, baby, not you.
That's
you
it.
go sit down.
Right.
That was a nice thought for you, but I'm not doing that. That's important.
Exactly. It is a beautiful, and I love that word Fakata. So I had to throw that in there. It's
a great word. It's a great word.
It is a really great word. And I know we've kind of gone a little bit over, and that's okay. We might turn this into 2 segments, and we certainly have enough for more. Yes. And I want to let's just talk about the takeaways from this is our first episode.
The very first premiere version episode.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
I feel just like cherry Coke. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
we've been wanting to do this for such a long time, and it's awesome to be able to do it.
Yeah. And to help people
I think it's going to turn into something great, because I think we have a lot of things to talk about, and there's a lot of people that we want to talk to as well and interview them to talk about these issues. And I think there's just a lot of potential here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're doing it. Yep. And I think that is, one of my biggest takeaways is that we didn't know what would happen when we met. We just knew that we were supposed to meet. Yep. We just knew that something great was going to come out of it. We didn't know what it was. And we're just doing it, because I think that all too often, so many people get caught up in how is this going to happen? Well, what's going to happen next? And all those other steps.
Or making something perfect. Right. Everything before you put something out in the world, it's got to be perfect, this and that. People don't want perfect. They want authentic.
They do.
That's the thing. When you spend your life waiting on perfect, baby, because anybody can figure out the AI program that's going to edit something and put a filter on it and do this and do that. That is not talent. What is real is the authentic emotion that you have to communicate with people, with singing, with writing, with dancing, with anything, painting you're doing. Don't wait until it's perfect. Do it and do another one next, and do another one after that, and do another, and keep doing it. When you keep doing it, and that's what Belle-Lyssa is doing. I'm such a fan, because you got your stuff coming through every day, baby. I want to point to the amount of effort that it takes for someone to record these messages and to have these videos that are constantly being put up all the time to help other people, that doesn't just happen at the drop of a hat. She puts a huge amount of effort into helping healing other people, and it is going to pay off. I'm saying that keep doing what you're doing. When you have self-doubt, and anyone in the world has self-doubt, keep doing the work, and the work will illuminate the path, and you will discover more about what you're supposed to be doing and about the artwork or about the singing as you do it. If you wait to
Exactly.
do everything until it's perfect, you're missing out on the biggest part of creativity, is the collaborative experience that you go through in the process of doing it. That's the
Yes,
key. The process of
absolutely.
doing it is the key.
Absolutely. And I'm a big proponent of I don't have to know how. Let me tell you, I'll share some of my story in the next episodes to come, but you don't have to know how. You just don't. You just got to show up. And another takeaway, since you mentioned that, I did 61 takes the other night. I was doing a podcast and I wanted to do a little infomercial about that. That was literally not less than 90 seconds. I did I think maybe it was 62 takes just for a minute and a half, but I was determined. There was something that I really wanted to say, and I knew how I wanted it to come across, and I was just determined. And so, speaking of just doing something, I wore this necklace and I didn't even realize it. So, many, many years ago, I wanted to learn how to fuse glass. So, a friend of mine taught me. This was my first piece.
Oh, beautiful.
It's 5 layers of glass. A friend of mine, who I'm still connected to, 20 years ago, saw it and she put it on her website, silvermessages.com, which I don't think is out there anymore. She was very, very, very successful. Someone from QVC saw that and contacted me and called me up and said, "We want to sell that on our site. We want to do that." And it was just like one of those things that, wow, I would have never known that. So I mean, it was just something I made. It was down in my art studio on the basement floor, and I just thought, I'm going to do that, and it was literally my first piece. So
Right.
you never know. You don't have to know how. You just have to show up, and then the people, places, and things. And I hear so many people saying, "Well, I don't have any friends that support me. I don't have any cheerleaders. I don't have that." Be that person. Be that person for yourself. And when you step into that energy and you vibrate high, like you and I vibrate at a real high level, like you feel like sunshine. And I love you for that. Like I love me some sun, even on a cloudy day. And imagine, I mean, and it's starting to cloud over and it's getting a little dark out. And wouldn't it be amazing to just surround yourself with sunshine? Because when you're in the sunshine, you see the good that's around you.
Well,
You're not
naturally,
paying
I
attention.
do have the joy coming out now. Naturally, it becomes part of your life when you make that choice.
It
But,
does.
I don't know if you can see my makeup is this little golden thing is inspired by David Bowie, obviously, but it's also to remind me to be a point of light because I am a natural redhead. I dye my hair now, but I was born a natural redhead. And the lady this week told me, she coined the phrase. It was so funny at the restaurant Spade and Spatula here in Lake Arrowhead. She said, sometimes redheads can ginger snap. Ginger snap is when you lose your, you know what, and somebody comes and says something, you don't want to be that person. I don't want to vibrate low and go low. So this is to remind me to keep that high vibration. And
I
it's a
love
choice. I want to let you know that high vibration is a choice that you make. And, they have the phrase, fake it till you make it. And I think David Bowie has a great quote about, you know, play the role of the person that you want to be.
it.
And if you keep doing that, you will become that person.
Mhm.
It's kind of like fake it until you make it is kind of a real philosophy. Like when you have aspirations to be this version of yourself that you can see in your mind and you want to be, that you see in other people, and you think that's unachievable because I don't have this support or this person, I don't have the friends that will help me or my family or the connections at work or whatever all that stuff is a negative energy trying to keep you from being the best that you can be.
That's
And when you
right.
can visualize in your head this version of you and you fake it every day, get up and play the role of playing that person, you will become that person. It will
Yes, you
become
will.
your reality because your energy will control that and you construct the world around you with your energy, with the creator. And if you want to make a choice every day to have this energy and this happiness and this sunshine, it's a choice. It doesn't just happen. Because I have a droopy version of me too that was happening for a while, baby. It was a bad, it was a cloudy day version that kept me in my house for 3 years and depressed. And that is also a reality that I could create right now if I wanted to. But
Right.
I choose to be sunshine.
And another big takeaway that we didn't even really talk specifically about, that sometimes this is a foreign concept to people. And we can change the way we feel by changing our thoughts. We are not a victim. If we don't wake up in a good mood, how did we go to bed? How did we choose? What did we do? How did we get there? What are we thinking? If we want to feel better, think better. Think better. Think the thoughts think about what you want to have happen, not what you don't.
Right.
And that is a big key. Imagine if the world, the good people in the world, but imagine if they thought about what they really want to have happen, the beautiful relationship that maybe they've never had yet.
Yeah.
So spend some time with some amazing couples. Like, spend some time with people. If you want more abundance in your life and you want more money, spend some time with people who have it, and feel that energy. If you want to be more artistic and playful and sing, spend some time with those creative souls. If you want to be a writer, join
Yeah.
a writing group, be around those people, and do things that make you feel good instead
Yes.
of the things that don't.
And become conscious of what energy cues you're throwing out there in your daily life and what kind of cycles or you know learned behavior or bad habits you may have fallen into in relationships that you have in your life with other people. That
Yeah.
think about, what do I want to have happen from my interaction with this person? Am I doing something now that's going to give me the result that I want to have happen, or am I falling into the same old relation? And this can happen a lot with family and with older friends and stuff that you've had, where you have this dynamic where you suddenly revert back to a younger version of yourself that's like a child or a victim or whatever. Be aware of that. Be aware of that and make conscious decisions in your life to give you the response or the result that you're going for. And if you're doing something that you know is not going to give you that result, stop doing it. That's very simple. Just, I know it sounds
Yeah.
an oversimplification, but just stop doing those things and do something else. Choose another path in your interaction with people, and your energy will change.
Exactly. And you led me to another topic for a whole other
We're full of
episode,
topics, girl. We're full of topics.
episode, and that is, I'm thinking about a title for this because I want to do some TikTok live talk show, and it's about a badass boundary setter, badass boundaries. And I mean that in the best way. If you don't like how people are treating you, well, he's not treating me right. Well, he keeps doing this and he keeps disrespecting me. He's not listening to me, and they're calling me names and they're doing this. You know what? Own it and choose to not allow that.
Yeah.
I do not allow that. My boundaries are not negotiable. My self-respect is not negotiable.
Yes.
I am worthy. I am beautiful. I am confident. I am talented. I am capable of doing whatever I put my mind to. I might not know how.
Yes.
Don't get in my way. And I know that I will attract the people and the places and the opportunities. I just know. I don't know how. I just know.
Absolutely.
And I think that in our society, there's a lot of blaming going on. And you know what? No blaming to the people that feel that. But guess what? There's a choice. There's a way that we can just pivot a little bit and choose. And that's what we want to do. We want to give you tools. And of course, if someone needs some extra help, because I've had help, I've had mentors, I've had coaches along the way. I didn't just get here, and you may not just wake up one day and say, oh, I'm going to do it differently. It's not always that easy. And, in this short time that we've had together, although we have been on this Zoom for quite a while tonight. However, we've had a lot to share and a lot to say, but don't be afraid to ask for help, because you're not in it alone. We're all in it together. And the people who are meant to help you are going to show up.
That's right.
There are going to be people
Absolutely, you're going to show up.
that are going
You're
to
going to
show
be
up.
surprised and overwhelmed
That's
when you
right.
start living with love and addressing your issues and becoming aware of your shortcomings and the way you're interacting with people, and you change that from a point of judgment of yourself or others into love and acceptance and forgiveness. the doors are going to open and all the people that love you and support you are going to be there for you. It's going to happen.
And
I mean,
so those ruby
can't
red
imagine.
slippers
Yes, yes,
are yours for the taking. They are
absolutely.
yours.
Put them on, baby. Pull them out of the drawer and put them
We
on.
got this. That's right.
And if a little glitter falls off here and there, baby, who cares? Glitter's never a bad thing.
No, I leave a little glitter everywhere. I do. I actually, my parents, I lost both of my parents and I have their ashes and I took their ashes and my dad always teased me. He said, "You're leaving glitter everywhere." And literally he was talking about the glitter. And I thought, you know what, Dad, because he had a good sense of humor, just because you said that, I'm going to put a little glitter in the ashes and I let them go in the ocean with the
Oh, that's
little
great.
glitter. And I don't want to die with the music in me.
Yeah.
We are not promised tomorrow, people.
Don't
That's
stand in
why
the
we are
corner waiting to
here,
dance, baby.
right? I mean, don't die with the music in you, whatever your music is,
Yeah.
whatever it is that you have inside of you, whatever it is, or whatever you want to do, whoever you want to be. Now is the time.
Well, you're very proactive. I'm telling you from an observer who hasn't
Thank
known you extremely long time, but I think I've known you long enough to recognize the amount of effort that you put in every single day to be the best version of you can be and help others. Absolutely. You
you.
can't not recognize that that is happening and that is going to pay off. Like
Thank
you
you.
can't keep putting in as much effort and attempt to help others and your heart being invested in your work and encouraging and all the things you're doing every day and making a choice to do the work to do that. No one comes in and shoots a video for you. No one comes in and holds the tape recorder or the recorder the microphone so you can do your encouraging sample. You're doing all of this as a powerful entity of love and healing. And that is going to pay off. And I just want to say hats off to you, baby, for doing
Thank
that
you.
because I'm in awe of you got your stuff together.
Thank you. 22 years and counting. And I have to say that for you too. You put yourself out there for your journey for everyone to see because you have such a beautiful heart. You are not afraid to be seen in the world. And that's what we're talking about. You don't have to play little. You don't have to play small. We're meant to play big. We are meant to be the biggest and best versions of ourselves. We are meant to play in that highest and best part of ourselves. We are
Yes.
meant to do that. We are meant to. And you are living proof of that. You do it every single day. And I've seen him on roller skates. He is a force.
I'm the best roller skater you're ever going to meet, baby. But I've been doing it. I've been skating for a long time. And it's one of the things, part of my, everybody's got like a formula or something they put together to help them heal. Mine is exercise, being roller skating. And I think that it releases endorphins in your body and all the things that help you heal. So going to the gym and swimming is another one I do. But getting physical and moving, even if you think, if you're hopeless, if you're very overweight or you feel certain, a weight of that, just start moving. Just start moving today and it will just keep doing that. Don't overthink it and try to be this perfect version that you think other people want you to be because just exercise and get those endorphins moving and it will help lift your spirits and then do creative things. That's my watercolor therapy is I paint a watercolor a day, at least one. And sometimes I don't even want to show them to people. I just do them for myself. And I paint them with my Starbucks uh, green tea or my matzo ball soup from Cantor's. And I put because,
Yes.
watercolor is like a really great thing that has a collaborative thing with you. It's like you bring this thing and then the liquid comes and says, I think we're going to do this. And you go, oh, okay, it's the collaboration. And, but the finding the recipe for you, exercise, creativity in some form, and doing the work to research and study how you could be a better person and what, looking at yourself and analyzing cycles and becoming aware of the voices in your mind and the other impacts and looking at inspirational other people, like Maya Angelou, always seeing clips from her that I share on she was such an inspirational force in my life, and it takes work. You're not given joy and successful life and happy relationships and healthy relationships with yourself and with others without work. So get busy. You got nothing to lose.
Yeah. And everything to gain.
You already could gravitate and be the lowest version of you and fail and be miserable and be depressed and be beaten down by people. That's easy. Everybody can do that. Make a choice to do something different.
Yeah.
to recognize your God energy that you were born with, the ruby slippers that you were given, the right that you have to be loved. It is an inalienable right that you were born with to be loved and have people around you to support you, have good relationships, and be happy.
Absolutely.
No one has to give you that. You have to give it to yourself.
Right. You have to take it. And sometimes, if you feel like someone has taken it away from you, guess what? You get to take it back
That's right.
and create your own mental diet. Parent
Break
yourself.
those chains, baby.
That's right. That is right. So should we call this a wrap for
I
today?
think so for tonight. And we got so many future topics to talk about with the,
Yes, we
you know,
do.
my theory of the sound and how it relates to energy. And, you're going to share your story. We're going to interview some people that we've talked about interviewing together, cover some of these topics, but we're very excited about where this can go to help heal. And it's very fun to do it together with you, Belle-Lyssa.
It is. I am so grateful and so excited. Should we stop the recording? And
Sure. All right.
okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.